Benvenuto in Italy. Welcome to Emilia-Romagna, the region of food and fast cars. Think lasagna and Ferrari. And today, think about sprinters. Jonathan Milan, winner stage 13 of the 2024 Giro d'Italia. Today we went from seaside, Riccione, to here in Cento, a little village to the north near Bologna. It was a stage that was going to be destined for a sprint. All flat, no categorized climbs, just what the sprinters wanted. And Jonathan Milan, well, we can call him the Giro d'Italia sprint king, at least to this point, with not too many more sprints on the horizon. With the other sprinters winning one at maximum, Jonathan Milan with today's win counts 3 and safely in that Maglia Ciclamino, the purple points jersey, and boy does he look good, the tall rider, barreling down the finish line, not having any problem with the late attack of Colombian Fernando Gaviria from Team Movistar. I want to talk about 3 different teams: Lidl-Trek, Ineos Grenadiers, and UAE Team Emirates. Those were the teams that were really strong in today's stage and strong overall so far in this 2024 Giro d'Italia. 13 days in, we're past the halfway point, and we can say that these teams have earned their place in this race with their top riders. In the day's race, we had 3 riders who broke free from the gun, 2 from Bardiani and 1 from Polticometa. And yes, if you're wondering, it was Andrea Pietrobon, who's been in several attacks in this race so far. Those riders were caught up in the chaos that would go down later in the stage, and I want to talk about that because it was a pretty calm and tranquilo stage. Afterwards, when I talked to race leader Tadej Pogacar, he said, hey, to Ineos, are you guys planning something? Because he had marked down from his sports director, who I spoke with, Fabio Badalto, that around 63 kilometers to go, when the race changed directions with the wind, we could see some echelons formed and we could see chaos. And indeed, we were treated to that, because also at the Ineos Grenadiers side, they had that point marked down and they decided to drop the hammer. All 8 of the riders, confirmed by Magnus Sheffield. I spoke with him. His father's here watching the entire Giro d'Italia, so he was happy to put on a show for his dad. Geraint Thomas sets 3rd overall, rides well in the classics, rides well in the crosswinds, and was having a heck of a time out there, joined by Top Gun Filippo Ganna. All those guys dropping the hammer, joined by UAE Team Emirates, splits in the peloton. Guys were caught out, but not the right guys in the end to make Ineos happy with what they were doing. They persisted along with UAE Team Emirates for around 20 kilometers. We saw Jonathan Milan, who would be the eventual stage winner, caught out, having to bridge some of the gaps on his own before having Lidl-Trek help him out with the gap bridging. Of the GC riders, the only riders that were caught out of note was Filippo Ganna of Team Jayco, setting 8th overall, and Jan Hurt, Team Soudal Quickstep, 11th overall. And in fact, Caleb Ewan was up in the front group, and the team decided not to persist with the echelons because they had Ganna back in the back group caught out. For a while there, we saw the little rider of Domenico Pozzovivo, who's the old guy in this race, 41 years old. I think he's raced 13 times in the Giro d'Italia. We're happy to see him pushing on. Everything was chaotic there for a while. Ineos decided, better ease up here because we're not making any ground in any of our important GC rivals. And they're thinking Danny Martinez from Team Bora Hansgrohe and Ben O'Connor and Antonio Tibiri from Team Bahrain Victorious. But we had edge of the seat excitement for 20 kilometers from around 63 kilometers to go to 53 kilometers to go. And during that time, 53 kilometers to go, that's when we saw our early escape. The trio swept up. That's why I wanted to concentrate on Team Ineos and on Team UAE Emirates. Also, in the final, when things were ratcheting up for the sprint, we saw another duo shoot off for the front on an escape, a counter move. They were swept up as the sprint teams were revving up. But then again, Ineos came to the front, as did UAE Team Emirates. It was Ineos Grenadiers that was most notable. Geraint Thomas setting 2nd, wheel, shotgun, riding through the curves, being safe, staying out of trouble, at least until he got to that 3 kilometer to go sign, when he knew that if he was caught up in any sort of incident, he wouldn't lose time in the GC. We saw also Tadej Pogacar being attentive up there, surrounded by Molano, surrounded by Rui Oliveira, the 2 flat sprint guys in the team of UAE Team Emirates. protecting him and also switching over to the sprint after they made sure he was okay in that 3-kilometer area. When I spoke to Thomas about the echelons that were formed, he was really proud of how the team rode. They wanted to take advantage, but after looking around, they saw that nothing was being done, so they decided not to continue. I asked Garen, I said, hey, did you have any words exchanged with Tadej Pogacar? He said, no, nothing. They didn't talk about anything, but they looked at each other and they knew it was game on. It was go time, as was the same in the sprint. They were up there fighting. You also would have seen Julian Alaphilippe, Lulu Alaphilippe, up there, stage winner yesterday. We were all cheering him on yesterday. Well, today he was up there setting second wheel or so, helping set up Tim Merlier. And then in the sprint, it was all over to Jonathan Milan. Oh, wow. Fernando Gaviria, Movistar, launching out early, hasn't won in many years a big race, and today he was trying to do that again. One of his signature moves is they hit out early, and it was a good little move, but with the train of Lidl-Trek, and that's the third team I wanted to talk about here, they've been setting up these sprints perfectly, because you have Jasper Stuyven, you have Edward Toons, and you also have the last man in the sprint lead-out train, Simone Consoni. Those guys placed Jonathan Milan perfectly. Perhaps the only day where they were really smarting was the day there in Lucca when they missed out on the opportunity to get Milan a sprint victory. Milan let out a huge roar, and rightfully so, when he crossed the finish line. We were a little bit surprised that Tim Merlier wasn't up there. Caleb Ewan told us this morning he hadn't been feeling well. Perhaps that was the reason why we saw his lead-out man having a shot, Luka Mescek. In second place, the Cofidis team rider in his first year with the World Tour team at the top, first Grand Tour, Stanislaw Aniołkowski. Third place going over to Phil Bauhaus. Fourth place, you would have seen the bright yellow jersey of Tim van Dijk. And then Fernando Gaviria had to settle for sixth after that early head out. But for sure, the sprint king in this race is Jonathan Milan. You might have been focused on Team Tudor, their sprinter, Alberto Danese, because if you're looking over the history books, he has a history of winning in Grand Tours when there are no categorized climbs. I think he's won 3 or 4 of them in the last 4 years or so. Today would have been his stage to do so. He would have had to settle for 10th today, with the stage win going to Jonathan Milan in that purple jersey. Spoke with Tadej Pogacar there in the mix zone. He said he wasn't affected by the crosswinds, and for his TT legs and what's coming up tomorrow, he's looking forward to that TT, looking forward to gain more time as he did at Santuario di Europa and as he did in the last TT that gave him all of his gains so far in this year's Giro d'Italia if we're looking at the overall classification. And then tomorrow, he'll see the classification as it comes out after the time trial, and he thinks that that will play a part in how the race is raced on Sunday after Saturday's TT, when Sunday we head into the high mountains in Livigno, yes, the Alps. Those climbs that define the Giro d'Italia will start on Sunday, and then we head into that third week. But today, it's Jonathan Milan celebrating Sprint King of the 2024 Giro d'Italia, riding in the Maglia Ciclamino, Stage 13 winner.